What's up, everybody? This is the Fade Podcast with your boy Glenn and Big Jack. We are back with another divisional preview. This week, we are bringing the NFC West divisional preview. Big Jack, it's a pleasure to be joined by you. You excited to talk about this super studly division or what?
Excited to get it over with. No, I mean, it's like I always say whenever we do these videos, man, love doing it. It's a good time. And I love talking the NFL. So
No
let's
doubt.
get it.
No doubt. All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to start with the worst team, at least according to the odds, with the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals going with a complete coaching overhaul this offseason, get rid of Kingsbury and bringing in new head coaches and coordinators alike, and then making some significant moves in the draft process, actually. Making a move back and then up for Paris Johnson, acquiring next year's first round pick from the Houston Texans, which I think is a great move. In terms of free agency, they lost Zach Allen, which I think is an underrated loss, but then they picked up a couple offensive linemen, which is nice. If I'm correct, Kyler Murray's basically out for the year, so I can't really love what their possibilities are at quarterback this year. Um, Overall, I would say this is a team that's probably looking not to tank, but maybe similar to what the Bears were last year, maybe okay with a not the most impressive win loss record because not only do they have their own first round pick, but they'll have the Texans as
Texans.
well in a year where there's some legitimate top tier quarterback prospects that maybe they'll want to pick or maybe they'll want to get huge draft capital in exchange for those picks. Um, Jack, what are the odds looking like for the Cardinals, and what are your thoughts on their over under and their odds to win the division?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of thoughts on the Cardinals other than it's always somewhat interesting when a new coaching staff's come into the fold. Um, you never know what might happen as far as how that team's going to change and project going forward. But that's a dog team. I think they're all in on the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Um, I think that they sort of immediately regretted the Kyler Murray contract. All the stuff came out last offseason, right before this, pretty much this time last year. All that stuff came out about the contract and the written into the contract that he has to watch a certain amount of film and all the video game stuff, all these weird nuances, and it was just like clearly they're sort of having second thoughts about their decision to give him the big long-term deal. He's injury prone. He's a little exciting when he's healthy, but even those years where he's been electric, he always fades down the stretch because I just don't think his body can hold up. Um, I think from a very way outside perspective, it's not like I give a flying fuck about the Arizona Cardinals, but it seems like they've made the decision internally that they're going to be bad this year, and they're probably going to hope that either their pick or the Texans pick lands them number one overall. Worst case scenario, maybe they can trade the combination of the two to move up, type of thing. But yeah, that's the only thing that interests me about the Cardinals is that little quarterback situation. Kyler Murray's made some not weird statements, I guess I shouldn't say that. He's made some statements about, maybe being back by the time for the start of the season. Like, I don't see anywhere that actually happens, but he seems like he's eager to play and get out there. I got to imagine part of it's to try to as like a audition for another team because he probably
Right.
sees the writing on the wall. Their odds to win the division plus 2,500. I mean, absolutely no chance. Their over under for wins is 4.5. It's right where it opened, and it's even money. It's plus 100. I would. It's not something I'm going to be on, but I would probably take the under.
I would take the under too. I think this is a team that is going to win at most 4 games next year. They're gonna be bad. If they win games, it's not gonna be on purpose. it's going to be tough. So
and
yeah,
that's in arguably it's arguably the worst division in football. So
I disagree, but I respect your
I guess I take
I
it back.
respect
I
your
guess I
opinion.
take it back. I guess I take it back. I neglected that. NFC South is definitely worse.
I respect your opinion, but I think this division still has some fight in it. And with some fight in it, I'm going to go to a team that I think actually has a little bit of a bounce back year this year with the Los Angeles Rams. They still got Aaron Donald in that interior defensively. They still got Stafford and Cooper Cup. They still have Sean McVay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why I was having a
I
panic
know.
attack that maybe he
No,
went
it's
for like a
because
broadcasting job or something.
there's always the past 2 years now. Even after they won the Super Bowl, there was rumors that he was going to leave. So
I don't think this is a team that has any chance to challenge for an NFC title or anything like that. But I do see this as a team that is going to be a little bit more competitive than everybody thinks they're going to be. Um, they're in a little bit of rebuild mode. They had like 14 draft picks, so that reflects it. They know they have to get younger across the roster, but I think this is a team that I'll let you get in the over under before I start talking my opinion on it. But that's a team that I'm actually circling in my head. Whatever their over under is, I think I'm going the over. But go ahead and let's talk about what their over unders at. Your general thoughts on the team. What's their odds to win the division, etc.
yeah, I agree with a lot of those thoughts that you just threw out there. I think a big thing hinges on Stafford.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's. It feels to me like he's at that teetering point of like either he's just too far gone being injury prone and he's like about to be done after this year, or he comes back this year and is like fine and has a few years left in him. But I agree with a lot of what you said. Cooper Cup was still right up there with Justin Jefferson before his injury last year. Donald's obviously a first ballot Hall of Fame caliber type player. You got to think he bounces back. I guess if they aren't great, maybe that's the type of guy you look to move at the trade deadline type of thing and see what you can get for him. But they're, I think their outlook is a lot better than it was last year. I think everyone's kind of down on them, beating them up a little bit, and I don't think they'll be as bad, but probably not as high as it sounds like you may be. Their over under for wins is 6.5. Now this is an interesting one because that said, it's still not something I'm going to commit to. I'll kind of keep repeating myself in all these separate little videos, but I just don't do futures, so it's very rare that I'll throw one out that I would say that I am in on. But their over under is 6.5 and it's plus 100. It opened up at 7.5 minus 125, so it's been bet down a ton. And 7 wins, 7-10 for a team that won the Super Bowl less than 2 years ago seems like some pretty damn good value, man. I don't know. To win the division, they're plus 1,000. I don't like that. I think the 49ers are potentially the best team in the NFL.
Wow.
So I don't like I don't like them to win the division by any means, but over 6.5 wins seems like a pretty solid play, especially at even money. Gotta love that.
The over would be my bet as well. I think they're a team, unless like you said, Stafford is like mentally checked out and is just trying to get a paycheck and like he won a Super Bowl and he's good. Then
Yeah, I don't think I don't pin Stafford as that type of
neither do I.
personality, but I do think there is something to that in the sense of like coming back from this injury and just he got his Super Bowl. He proved the second he was on a legit team, he got the job done.
Right.
Maybe he didn't perform at a very top level to make that happen. He was still throwing his fair share of picks and all that, but he got it done. And I think maybe it's a little tougher to overcome and fight through injuries when you sort of have established a certain point of your career where you don't need to really you might lose a little bit of that competitive juice when you've already proven all you can really prove, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. That being said, I like their over. I think if Stafford comes back and plays like we're talking about with, you know, not even necessarily a chip on his shoulder, just back to playing football, I see them as a team that's going to win at least 7 games for sure.
Yep.
All right, on to the Seahawks. The Seahawks this offseason, I think they did a lot to get better, especially defensively. They added like four key free agents. The biggest money one I think was Draymond Jones. I think he was pretty expensive on the interior defensive line. But they got Bobby Wagner back. They got Jaron Reed. They got Devin Bush. They added Devin Witherspoon and Derek Hall in the draft, who are pretty good defenders in their own right. Cameron Young from Mississippi State should be able to come in and contribute on that defensive line right away, especially in run defense. The biggest question for the Seahawks to me is their quarterback. Um, I don't believe in Geno Smith, and if he had to be a Justin Herbert type player and make it all happen, but I think he could play within a system, and I think they got enough in the run game. I think Zach Charbonnet, who they got in the draft, will be a nice addition there too. I think they're going to play a good brand of football under Pete Carroll this year, and I think their defense is actually going to be really good. This is a team I think could challenge San Francisco for the division in Seattle. What do you think about the Seahawks? What do you think about their odds? Talk to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that I think they could challenge for the division. As I sort of touched on earlier, I do think the 49ers are the class of the NFC this year and maybe of the whole league. I I do think it's good for a Pete Carroll led team. They're going to play defense, like you said. That's where they added a lot of their guys. That's where they're improved even more so. And they're going to play defense. They're going to take care of the football, and I think that's going to lead to some success for them. You said they added more running back depth in the draft. I mean, I don't know how the voting finished. I know Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year. I had to imagine that Kenneth Walker was somewhere up there. I mean, he's sort of a dog. So
Yep.
I think they'll be all right. But once again, you go back to the quarterback, and Geno Smith's the guy. They give him the contract. Yes, he has the good year last year. People were throwing out Geno Smith MVP banter. That was obviously laughable, but he did have a good year. Credit to him. He, earned the contract that he got. I'm not going to knock him for doing it, but I don't see, I've seen too much negative on him to all of a sudden think he's going to have this resurgence this late in his career. It's just so rare that it happens. Not rare that it happens where you have 1 year. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick had an awesome year. That it happens, but it's very rare that it's sustainable, and I don't think it is with Geno Smith. So I don't love the Seahawks this year. That's part of the reason that I'm not very high on this division as a whole. I think the Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks are all probably sub-8 win teams, which means they're all going to be under 500. But you're looking at plus 230 to win the division. So I don't love that juice. I don't think it's worth the squeeze there. I feel like they should be more like plus 350, plus 400 would be a little more realistic in my opinion. Their over-under for wins is 8.5. It opened at 8.5 minus 125. It's now 8.5 minus 155. So people like the Seahawks as far as the total goes. Seems like money's certainly flowing on them getting to those 9 wins. To be honest, I kind of would probably like the under, taking the juice. Even though I do trust a Pete Carroll-led team that's going to play good defense and, like I said, sort of manage the clock. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not very high on the Seahawks.
I'm going to call it now. The Seahawks are going to win the division.
You're going to take that plus
I
30?
might take that future. I think that The only negative that they have is quarterback. And I know quarterback is everything in the NFL, but their receivers are sick. Their defense is going to be sick. Their running backs are sick. Their coach is good. I might consider it. I called it. I called it. I called the Seahawks are going to win the division. And that's with me being last year a huge 49ers guy and historically a huge 49ers guy, loving the way they play the game, loving their coach. Um, I think the 49ers are poised for a major setback this year. I'm worried about their offensive line. I'm worried about some of their losses on defense. Yes, they did add Javon Hargrave, who is a lot of people wanted him to be on the Bears, but they didn't really add anybody in the draft that I think is going to play meaningful minutes. They added a kicker with their second pick, and everybody in the draft is going to be nothing more than a special teamer at best.
I mean,
And
they added Christian McCaffrey less than a year ago.
yeah, I mean that's a fact. That's a fact. And they got McCaffrey, Samuel, and Kittle, but
And Ayuk.
and Ayuk. But do we really think that Brock Purdy is the greatest quarterback of all time? That's the question.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need to transition straight into San Fran. I'll let you kind of, throw your stuff out there about them once we shift to them in a second. But I, yeah, I just don't, I don't agree about Seattle. I get where you're coming from. If you're going to take anyone else in the division, it would be them for me as well. But I don't know. Maybe the NFC West is the best division in football. Maybe I'm just totally wrong about this division.
I think it's still a two horse race. I still think it's San Fran and Seattle. Um, for the values that we're seeing with the betting, I would lean Seattle because I think it's neck and neck. Um, I
Fair
also
enough.
I also don't hate the value with the Rams, as terrible as that sounds, but
I mean, it's a ton. It's plus 1,000.
yeah,
So
yeah.
throw a little pocket change on there.
Um, but yeah, your thoughts on San Fran? They lost. They lost McGlinchey. They lost five defenders. They lost Garoppolo. Granted, he was already gone for sure. Um, like you said, they picked up McCaffrey. They picked up Javon Hargrave. Picked up Deshaun Gibson, who's a decent safety. They got Darnold as a backup. Um, in the draft, really the only person they added, other than the kicker, that's going to play any meaningful minutes probably, is they added a safety, and he wasn't until mid round three. So, um, they traded a lot away for McCaffrey, and they had an opening last year to maybe make that Super Bowl. So you can't really say it's a bad move. But what are your thoughts on the Niners?
Uh, Pretty cut and dry. My thoughts are if they had a quarterback to play in the NFC Championship, they would have won the Super Bowl last year. Um, that's pretty much where it stands. I think that they maybe got better. I know you said they lost a lot of guys. I think the Hargrave addition is so massive to me. In this day and age, the ability to get after the quarterback in a flash, with Nick Bosa arguably being the best defensive player in the NFL, adding Hargrave, I don't see how this team isn't right back where they were the year prior. I understand the quarterback concerns. I'm not sure if Brock Purdy is going to be all systems go week one. Sam Darnold might be the starter. It has been somewhat satisfying to hear the woes of Trey Lance and how just pitiful he is and how he's just not an NFL player from what it sounds like. With how the Bears got swindled by the 49ers for another man we don't need to talk about. But I just Kyle Shanahan is right up there with the top tier coaches and Belichick and Andy Reid. I love what the guy does. And Brock Purdy, maybe I haven't seen enough to fully buy in, but the guy was undefeated as a starter until that NFC Championship where he didn't really get to play. So he's, proven himself at least a little bit in his 6 or 7 games if he gets back healthy. And I sort of would like to see 3 or 4 weeks of Sam Darnold under center in San Francisco. He was very, highly thought of coming out of college. He was very, very highly thought of that year before he came out of college when he flashed like crazy at USC. He was, everyone projected all over him to be the clear cut number one guy. Sort of took a step back that second year and then, ended up with the Jets. Excuse me. But I'd like to see how he looks under Kyle Shanahan. That'd be very interesting to me. I just think this team's a juggernaut. They got studs all over the defensive side of the ball. They got playmakers all over the offensive side of the ball. George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, all guys who are probably top 3 at their position in the league, maybe top 5 at worst. I don't know, man. They're just stacked in my opinion. And, I respect your points about Seattle and some of the stuff you said about Los Angeles. Even agree with certain things here or there, but overall, I just see them absolutely running through this division and a sort of weak NFC in general. I love the Niners this year. Minus 190 to win the division. Not enough value to play anything there. Their over-under wins opened at 11.5 plus 105. It's been bet down to 10.5, minus 145. Not something I would play to get taxed that heavy, but I don't see any scenario where this team doesn't win 11 football games.
Right on. I respect your opinion. I love the Niners. I love the way they play. They're a team similar to Tennessee, where I kind of wish my team played that way. You could maybe throw Seattle in that boat as well, with what I'm picturing them to be this year. But yeah, I think I like the value on the Seahawks. To be honest, I think that's where my head's at. But my favorite bet in the division is the Rams over. I think that's my favorite bet. Period.
I would agree. I think we're on the same page with that. Actually, I would agree that that's probably based on the odds and the over unders. That being even money at 6.5, I tend to fall right in line with you there.
Right on. All right, Jack. Any last thoughts on the NFC West before we wrap things up here?
No, I mean obviously I sort of caught myself, recalling the horrors of the NFC South, but. I think you've made decent arguments to convince me that with the Rams and the Seahawks, at the very least, being competitive football teams with good coaches, I think you've convinced me. Maybe the NFC West. Maybe I should give them a little more credit than I did when we started the segment.
For sure. All right, that's it for the NFC West. We will be back. We still have the East and the North to do. Big Jack, thanks for joining me. Till next time, peace. Big Jack.
Bears.